The Obama administration's handling of sensitive information relating to the Christmas Day bomber has set off a firestorm in Washington. Good evening, I'm Tucker Carlson, in tonight for Sean Hannity. Earlier this week, it was revealed that Omar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib was once again cooperating with the FBI. The leak came at a time when the administration was under heavy fire for its decision to read Abdul-Muttalib his Miranda rights after he'd been questioned for less than an hour on Christmas Day. There are also questions swirling about whether or not FBI Director Robert Mueller supported that leak. In a letter to the president, Missouri Senator Kit Bond said, quote, FBI Director Bob Mueller personally stressed to me that keeping the fact of his cooperation quiet was vital to preventing future attacks against the United States. However, FBI officials are now denying Senator Bond's claim. They say the director never voiced such a concern. Meanwhile, the White House is attempting to downplay the extent of political cover this information may have provided President Obama. Take a look at this.
The notion that somehow the White House, in conjunction with agencies involved in this interrogation, gave out classified information, yes, I think an apology on that is owed because it's not true.
Oddly enough, from that very same podium earlier this week, Deputy White House Press Secretary Bill Burton was telling a completely different story about the White House's involvement. Watch.
Ideally, this information would not necessarily come out.
Well, why, if it doesn't harm the investigation?
In order for the American people to know that we are doing everything possible to keep them safe, and in order for our continued success in this effort, we made the determination that it was a good idea to make sure that people knew that our sources and that our methods here were working.
So which was it? Was this a political decision by the White House, and has this leak put all of us in danger? Joining me now, the author of Courting Disaster, How the CIA Kept America Safe and How Barack Obama is Inviting the Next Attack, Mark Thiessen, and Fox News contributor Juan Williams. Welcome to you both. Juan, which is it? You seem to see contradictory statements of fact from the White House podium and the press room this week. Which one is true?
Tucker, I don't see any contradiction. I'm interested in how you see it, because what I saw there was the White House responding to what has been now weeks and weeks and waves of attacks coming from Republicans suggesting that there has been negligence, malfeasance in the handling of the Christmas bomber, Abdul-Muttalib, and that he should not have been treated to civilian courts, and that somehow the country was in greater danger as a result of the way the Obama administration was handling it. The Obama administration finally starts to fire back and says, wait a second, that's not true. And not only that, they didn't disclose any confidential or classified information. They simply said Abdul-Muttalib is talking. That's all they said.
Do you think that releasing that information, while it may have been helpful to the Obama administration in the short term politically, do you think it made us safer? Do you think that's a wise thing to do, to signal to the rest of the world anything about our interrogation techniques or their status? Juan?
I think that what you heard from Bill Burton was that ideally, maybe not. But the fact is that we live in a highly politicized world, and that what you saw was that Republicans were making hay. Actually, the polls don't show that the American people thought that the Obama administration had mishandled it, but there was constant attacks against the administration, and they decided, you know what, they were going to just make the case very plain that, in fact, it's ordinary standard operating procedure from the Bush years to now to take people into custody, even on U.S. soil, especially on U.S. soil, that they would have some Miranda rights read to them, and that, secondly, Abdul-Muttalib was, in fact, talking and cooperating.
Okay. Mark Thiessen, what do you think the effect of reading, regardless of what may or may not have happened in previous administrations, what do you think the factual, real-time effect of reading the Miranda rights, Mirandizing this character less than an hour after his arrest, were to American national security?
It's an absolute disaster. This is a debacle of the highest order. One of these days in interrogation school, they're going to hold up this case as a case study for how to bungle an interrogation. Failure number one, they didn't see the attack coming because we are not interrogating terrorists anymore. Then, failure number two, a terrorist falls into our hands like manna from heaven, and they read him his rights after 50 minutes of interrogation. Failure three, they let him stay silent for 5 weeks. During that time, Al-Qaeda is covering his tracks. This is a guy who knows information about phone numbers, bank accounts, email addresses, the people who trained him, the people who trained next to him and might be coming after him, and we let him be silent for 5 weeks. And then failure number four, when he starts talking, they announce it. Not only do they announce it, they say what he's talking about. They say that he's giving us intelligence about this cleric al-Awlaki. you know, why would they tell the Al-Qaeda that?
But
You're giving the information to the enemy.
But
it's insanity.
Okay, so Republicans are saying this actually matters. This is usable information that will be turned by our enemies into an advantage against us. How would that work? Mark,
well, they're going to cover their tracks. Look, intelligence is perishable. This guy was supposed to be vaporized on that plane. They were not supposed to know that he was going to be in our custody. He was supposed to be dead. So as soon as Al-Qaeda finds out that he's in our custody and that he's talking, they immediately start covering his tracks. They shut down the email accounts. They shut down the bank accounts. They hide the terrorists. They close down safe houses. So this perishable intelligence is being lost for 5 weeks while we're not talking to the guy. And then when he does start talking, they tell Al-Qaeda what he's talking about. So this cleric can use that fact that he's giving up information to hide. It's absolutely insanity. It's like they've taken the word secret out of the dictionary in the White House.
Well, I mean, Juan, wouldn't it be, to put it mildly, a better idea to have more information about what this guy was up to, who helped him, who he knows, rather than less?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then why wouldn't we do everything we can to get that information?
Well, we did. I don't know that we didn't.
But we didn't.
The argument that Mark is making, Mark and I would agree that we, as Americans, have as our #1 priority our national security, and we have to stop terrorists who are trying to kill us. But the question is, did the United States government make critical errors in the handling of Abdul Muttalib? My answer is we didn't understand that he, in fact, had been in Yemen for that length of time, that he had any extensive information. I think that's why there was a slowness in terms of really properly interrogating. It was not a matter of negligence, and yet Republicans have politicized it.
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm not politicizing anything. Let me just ask you a very simple question. Isn't that exactly the sort of information we should have known and that we would have gleaned from, say, an enhanced interrogation?
Tucker, what did President Obama say? The intelligence gathering was victimized of and guilty of systemic failure. He said this. This is not a matter of Republican or Democrat.
Failure, Juan?
Because we did not know that Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula was capable of managing this kind of attack. It's about 200 people.
And why didn't we know?
We were still looking. Well, we should have known, and that's why it was a systemic failure. There's a problem here.
I got the answer for you,
in
Juan.
a sense.
Well,
let me
the answer is that we are not. Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Juan. Finish it.
Oh, well, my point is, look, in fact, the command and control structure of Al-Qaeda coming out of Pakistan and what's left in Afghanistan has been decimated by the drone attacks and U.S. efforts and increased troop presence. And now you get these lone wolves who fly in like Abdul Muttalib, and our intelligence capacity sometimes does not keep up. That is the problem.
Mark Thiessen, do we know that this creep was a lone wolf? Can we say that with certainty? He was not a lone wolf. Well, how do we tell me what we know?
Wolf. This was a guy sent by Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is a merger between Al-Qaeda in Yemen and Al-Qaeda in Saudi Arabia, a virulent new terror network, and we were caught completely blind. Why were we caught blind? Because we are not capturing and interrogating senior terrorist leaders anymore. We have eliminated the capability to capture these people. You know, when I was working on my book, Mike Hayden told me something that's a very interesting way to look at intelligence. He said intelligence is like trying to put together a puzzle, and you've got all the pieces laid out on the table in front of you, but you're not allowed to see the picture on the cover of the box. And that's the situation we were in with this guy. We had pieces of the puzzle. The guy's father came into the embassy. We had an intercept. But we're not allowed to see the picture on the cover of the box. The only way you get that picture is by capturing the Khalid Sheikh Mohammeds of the world and interrogating them.
Amen. Mark Thiessen, Juan Williams, thanks to you both.
You're welcome, Tucker.
A member of the Obama administration says the Pope himself